Hi friends, I'm Shauna. Welcome to the channel and welcome to a new video. Welcome to February, we made it. Whether you've finished No by January today or you're just out here living your best life, you made it through the first month of the year. Today's video is the next installment of the Let Me Convince You To series. And this is a series where I try to convince you to do stuff that is ultimately a good choice. The first installment of this video was Let Me Convince You to go on a no buy, and today we're going to be doing Let Me Convince You to try the minimalist makeup bag. Now, in that video, I said that I would update you in every iteration of this series to let you know how many people I convinced. You can go look at the poll on my community tab if you would like to see the results for yourself. But 400 of you voted and 59% of you that I convinced you to try a no-buy, even a no-buy month. Like, I feel very honored with that. I was expecting like 10%. I can't believe 59% of you. Y'all, even if it was just 8 people, I'm like, that is so exciting to me that my video convinced you, even if I was like the 30th person to hear it or the 30th person to tell you, my video inspired you in some way to take that action. I love that. So today I'm going to shoot my shot and try and convince you to try the minimalist makeup bag. This video is going to also have a place to vote in the community tab, just like the first video. So I would love it if you would go and vote in that tab or in that space after watching this video. The poll will go up about 30 minutes after publishing this video, and it'll be available indefinitely, but the voting will be for about a week. And I updated on Instagram last time, so if you want to stay updated on how the poll's doing, you can follow me on Instagram. If you have any suggestions for this series, I would love to hear them because I do plan to make one of these videos probably once every other month. So I would love to know what you would like to see. If not, that's cool. I'll have my own agenda of things that I would like to convince you to. And I promise none of them involve spending money. We're going to get into it now. And I do just want to say that my members got access to the full February content calendar yesterday. So they knew this video was coming. Well, they know all the February videos are coming. So if you would like to get access to a monthly content calendar, join the membership. Links in the description. All right, time to get going. And first, I need to provide you with a little bit of a definition of what this challenge is so I can convince you to do it. The challenge is really simple. And you're going to create a makeup bag to live your life with for 30 days or 31 days, or if you want to do it in February, 28 days. And you pick one product for each category. And the rules of this can be as flexible as you want them to be. Like, do you want to have one lip product, as in like just one lipstick, or do you want to have one lipstick, one lip gloss, one lip liner? The rules are up to you. And you live your life with that for 30 days. I did this challenge last year and so did Lara. So if you would like to see both of our thoughts and like actually see us do this challenge, I'm going to link both of those videos below. I did too, and I think she did too, like an intro video and after the challenge video. So I'll link all of those in the description. The minimalist makeup bag is quite similar to a Shop My Stash, or I mean, it is a Shop My Stash in a way. The biggest difference though is I think the minimalist makeup bag challenge is just much more intentional and much more concentrated. When you're doing a Shop My Stash, you're just picking products that you like. Sometimes you might have a theme or maybe even a duration, maybe not, depending on what you do. The challenge is really concentrated and really intentional because you're going into it looking to learn about yourself and do a lot of learning and data collecting, which we'll get into. So if you already like a Shop My Stash, you may really like this too. Let's get into the list. And number 1 is learning. You can learn so much about your preferences and collect so much data. It's kind of like the sky's the limit with this. Yeah, you could learn more about or solidify your opinion on things like color preferences and formula preferences, But also you can test hypotheses and you can actually learn much more and even potentially change your consuming habits. The impetus for this challenge was this question right here. How much makeup could I own before I got bored? And also, what was the cause of my makeup boredom? I've had this goal of a minimalist makeup collection for years, and you could really see that goal actually spoken about in 2020 and 2021 during my makeup inventories. I wanted this curated collection. I wanted this minimalist makeup collection. And in a way, this challenge allowed me to try out that ideal without actually committing to it. I learned pretty quickly that that goal was kind of a fantasy self goal and an idealized version of me and didn't represent reality. Because while I was having this minimalist goal, there was also a part of me that really enjoyed owning stuff and really enjoyed, touching and swatching all of my palettes and having multiple color stories to dip into for palettes. And, I think even people who are minimalists, they might not just own one makeup palette or one eyeshadow palette. They might own 2 or 3 and kind of call it at that. But even then, I'm like, I wouldn't be happy that way. This challenge was the defining moment. This was the moment where, in the moment, I realized what I was learning and how pivotal it was. And that has only been reinforced since. I learned what enough means to me and what enough looks like in my makeup collection. And I learned what enough is for each category of my makeup. I learned that I'm super utilitarian about bronzer and eyeliner, highlighter, and mascara. So I can now, or since then, I can whittle down my bronzer collection to just one unless I have a super distinct formula, like one powder and one cream. I also don't need any more highlighter. And even in an ideal world, I probably would have decluttered all of my highlighters except for one and kept it to use on occasion. But I'm not here for decluttering things that are usable for the most part. I also learned what places I like choice, blushes, as well as lipsticks and eyeshadow palettes for sure, which I already kind of knew. But I also learned what my sweet spot is within those numbers. Because once you go back into your makeup collection, you have all your stuff available again. But also, when I was living with, I think I chose 2 lip products. When I'm living with just those, I was pretty okay with just those 2, but a couple of more options would be nice for everyday life. And when I realized, I could truly be happy with maybe 6 lip products, I currently have about 30. I can now give myself a goal to work towards. And I don't necessarily want to set in stone 6 is my number. And that's it. That's the thing it has to be. I learned that I have too much. And when you're somebody who has always been looking to the newest, nicest thing, or you've always been looking and you've been buying a lot of stuff, to realize, actually realize, wow, I have too much stuff. Still, I have too much stuff, even after years of not buying stuff. But also, I know what enough means for me. I know what enough means in all of these categories. And that's kind of eye-opening. And especially with blush, this was the moment that really made me realize, while I love blush, I have 15 or 16. I'm not even using or able to use all the ones that I have. And when I opened back up my makeup collection, I was kind of overwhelmed by choice. And I was I put the Hourglass blush in that challenge, and I didn't love it, but it was okay. I could in reality, when I'm wearing my makeup, I don't need that much choice with blush. I need choice, but not 16 blushes worth of choice. And when you select one product per category for this challenge, you're asking yourself a very specific question that gets you to think about your makeup collection in a different way. You're not asking yourself what your favorite products are, what your newest products are, what your most exciting products are. You're asking yourself, what are my most reliable products? What are the products that could get me through about 80% of life circumstances? I have eyeshadow palettes that, in my heart, are my favorite eyeshadow palettes, color stories that are my favorite. But I didn't pick them for that challenge because it's not about which one was my favorite. It was really about which one could I use just about every day and not get bored and use it for all of these different circumstances. You know, my ColourPop palette, my Flutterby palette, love that palette. In probably my top 3 favorite palettes, it used to be ranked number 1. Having that palette in for a challenge like this would have created boredom so quick. Just picking the products was an event in itself and really made me see the value in some of the choices that I've currently made, and that while that palette wouldn't be good for this challenge, I still love it and it still has a place, and I wouldn't want to get rid of it just because it's not my most reliable or workhorse kind of makeup. What can make this challenge so much fun is approaching it like an anthropologist, like studying your choices and studying your daily makeup habits and really just being interested in the data that you're learning. The data that you learn can empower you to make better shopping choices after the challenge. The challenge fundamentally shifted how I shop for makeup because of all the stuff that I've learned. And if you've ever thought that you'd be a minimalist, even remotely, like you've ever had that thought that's ever crossed your mind, this is a good challenge to test that out. And so now, anytime I watch minimalist content and it makes me feel shitty for the kind of life I have or having too much stuff, when it comes to makeup, at least, I can let those feelings brush off because I know that I'm making the right choices, and being a minimalist or a makeup minimalist isn't actually something that I would find fulfilling. Sure, I could have just a little bit less, but I'm working on that in some categories through painting and using it up organically instead of just throwing out my makeup. And so this challenge has really helped me kind of mentally brush off fantasy self urges to be makeup minimalist, because now I can be like, dude, that's fundamentally untrue. Stop feeling bad. Like, you're fine. So learning about data is or was the longest category here because it's the most important thing that I think that can come away from this challenge or that could happen in this challenge and is reason enough in my mind to do this. So let's move on to number 2. If you're on a no-buy, this can be a great distraction project. And when you have this project to focus on, while you're not thinking about it every day or every moment of every day, it's really channeling your thoughts and your energy into this one thing that can make your makeup collection seem a little bit more exciting, or even the process of putting on makeup exciting. And this data collecting process could just be exciting too. Like if you really wanted to go all in and actually have this consume time and energy more than just a baseline, you could absolutely track your uses or write down your thoughts every day or have a check-in every couple of days or every week or 2 weeks. You can make this a full-on project and really lean into the data collecting and learning to kind of distract you from other things if that's something that you feel like you would need. I think distraction projects are fundamental to a no-buy. I say that because at some point in your no-buy, it's going to get boring or it's going to get hard. And this is one way to make your no-buy more fun. And it's a way to gamify your no-buy or just make your no-buy much more fun. And even if you're not on a no-buy, this can serve as a distraction project if you have other things going on in your life, or if you've just been feeling really spendy. You don't have to go on a no-buy. You can create this hyper focus on a makeup bag and just commit to learning about yourself for 30 days. And I found myself so excited to wake up and do my makeup every morning because it was like, oh, like I know that I'm doing something here and I know that I'm learning. And even if I don't know right now what I'm going to learn, I know that this challenge is going to do something. And I was just so excited. And I wasn't even tempted to buy makeup during this challenge because I was just so immersed in doing it all together. And so this can take up time, energy, and attention away from other stuff. And instead of just saying not buying makeup and not putting anything in its place, here's a distraction project to put something in its place to focus on. Number 3 is contentment. This project, I said that learning about your data is the most important part about this project or the best part of this project. And I'm going to qualify contentment as kind of like a sub genre of that because all the learning that I did in this project led me to be more content with my makeup choices, my collection, how much I own, and all of that. And the central way that I feel like this affected my contentment and could affect yours is by allowing you to learn what enough means for you. When we're always looking to newer, nicer things, when we're looking externally, we're not focusing on what we have. This is a hyper focus on what you have. And when we're focusing on what we have, when we realize this project can help us realize that what we have is good enough and does actually serve us. When I realized that I had more blush than I could really use and felt a little bit of an overwhelm with blush, it was a natural kind of, stopping factor when I was looking at new blush. Yeah, I loved it and I thought I would like it. It was really pretty, but I wasn't interested in buying blush anymore because I had this information. And this challenge really truly made me appreciate my collection for what it is. And it really I kept asking myself, what's not good enough about what I already own? The reason why I want this other stuff is because it's new or novel. And at one point, all of this stuff was new, novel, and exciting to me. I bought it for a reason. And when you tuck away all of your makeup and you put it out of sight, out of mind for a month, and you pull it back out, that moment was one of the light switch moments where I got so excited, oh my God, I get to have this palette back. Oh, and I haven't had that feeling for my own makeup in a while, or at that point. And I was so excited over makeup that I already own. And I was more excited because it was just away for a while. Some of that stuff that I was really missing during the challenge was so nice to just get it back in my hands. And I was like, oh, I missed you. When was the last time you acted that way with your makeup? And that's one of the powerful things about this challenge. One of the things that makes this video a little extra interesting is that I did this challenge a year ago. So now I can say from a year's perspective, this challenge has fundamentally changed my relationship to makeup. And this was the moment last year in the contentment project where I learned what contentment meant with my stuff, because it brought me contentment. This challenge was the mindset shift. And I really kind of meditated on what's enough, what is enough? Why do I feel like I don't have enough? And just the fact that I could use these products for 30 days, basically one item per category. The fact that I could live with it and I was fine made me realize that in most of these categories, I have more than one other option. So if I could live with this for 1 month, yeah, I got a little bit bored in some areas, but if I could actually do this, how much other makeup do I have? How many other choices do I have? Now, one of my biggest lessons in this challenge came with this kind of foundation moment. I had a couple of special events that were happening last February, and the foundation that I put in the challenge was just not going to cover it. There was no way I could wear that foundation for a 12-hour day. It wasn't going to happen. So I rolled in, I found another foundation, my Fenty foundation, to use just for those 2 or 3 special events. And technically, that is breaking the challenge, right? I rolled in one extra thing to what my challenge was. And that's the great thing about this challenge, is that you might have moments like that where you see that something about what you're doing is not learning. And I love when moments like that happen, because when you have that realization, something here isn't working, you now have the opportunity to figure out why and correct it and learn something from it. And what I realized was that I could never be a one foundation person, and I was trying to force something that just wasn't going to happen for me. That one situation taught me everything I needed to know about my foundation preferences moving forward, and I stopped feeling guilty about having 2 or 3 foundations or even 4 foundations, because some would be a darker color for the year, which is always okay with me. But I always thought maybe I could be that person where I just used one, and I had one foundation for the, let's say, fall, winter, one foundation for the spring, summer. So at most I would have 2 foundations, but that's not that does not reflect reality for me. And I love mixing foundations, and there's no reason to try and force myself to go down to one thing when that choice wouldn't serve me. I also wasn't loving the Fenty foundation at that time. I would say it was kind of verging on dislike, but rolling it into that project made me really realize that this foundation has a purpose and a place in my collection, and I do really like it. And now today, in 2023, I am interested in repurchasing that foundation when I get through some other ones. Removing all the excess from your life, whatever excess means, gives you the opportunity to focus on a smaller segment of your life, of your collection. And when you get to do that, you get to know that stuff in an intimate way and really help me appreciate what I had. It really focused my attention on what I had versus what I didn't have. Number 4, which is a really important aspect of this as well, is that the challenge teaches you how to combat boredom. If you want to learn about how to combat makeup boredom, this is the challenge for you. This is probably the most difficult part of this challenge. And I say difficult lightly because, there were some frustrating moments, but I wasn't overall pulling out my hair. This challenge requires you to figure out a solution for when you're bored. And this challenge helped me develop my boredom techniques that I use to this day. I mean, it's been a year and I still use some of the stuff that I learned in that challenge. And also now it's also made me really conscious of what boredom feels like for me. And when I know that I'm bored versus when a product or something isn't working. Well, I always kind of knew this to some extent. It made me really like almost an expert on myself in that feeling in that way. The challenge forces you to come up with solutions, whether that is using your makeup in creative ways, repurposing makeup, trying new trends, or trying new iterations of what you're doing. Those are some things I did, but I also picked a palette. I did have some foresight here. I picked a palette that had a lot of tutorials for it. So I was watching makeup tutorials from Natasha Denona or other people when I was feeling bored or uninspired from the palette. You can get in a rut with how you apply or do your makeup. We all tend to have our own style. So when I was able to watch other people with tutorials, it was a little bit more exciting and, combine things on my face in a different way. But also rolling in products in your collection is also a solution. I was a little resistant to rolling in that foundation, but rolling in that one thing was exactly what I needed and taught me so much. And so if you're, let's say, really struggling and you're like, screw this, I don't want to do this challenge because, and it's maybe 1 or 2 things that need to be either swapped out or 2 or 3 things that need to be added in, you should do it. And that's kind of amazing, where the difference that could make you stick to a minimalist makeup bag were 3 things, and then you could do it. And while you might not want to do that for the rest of your life, I think it could teach you about your own collection when you have to make those swaps as well. And you will for sure learn about boredom and how it comes about for you and what you do when you're bored. If you have that knowledge, great. If you don't, you'll learn about it. Next up is customizability. This challenge is customizable to whatever you want. If you're somebody who has been watching this video and you're like, you know what, one product per category would be a struggle, this challenge is not for me. You don't have to pick one item per category. I think the goal here would really be to pick the number of items that would be a stretch for you without making the challenge completely dreadful. And if what you've done at any point doesn't work for you, you can use that moment to ask yourself, why isn't this working? What can I do instead? And then just implement that thing. Maybe you only go 2 weeks and then you're like, you know what, screw this. I don't care. I'm not interested in this. That's data. And you know that a makeup collection that is maybe a little bit more satisfying to you has a little bit more choice. And then you can maybe try again with, let's say, 5 products per category or 3 products per category. Or, for everything you could use 2 products, but then for blush and highlighter, you want 4 options each. You can customize this to whatever you want. You could also tailor this challenge to learn specific things about yourself if the regular format of the challenge doesn't fit. Like you could have themes or specific data points. Like as an example, you could just have an entire indie challenge where you're only going to use indie makeup. And maybe you have some thoughts about indie makeup. Maybe you think that it's better than high-end makeup. Or maybe you think that you don't have enough options in your indie makeup. Or maybe you think that you're not using your indie makeup enough. Why aren't you using it enough? you could do a challenge like this and you could ask your makeup these questions and your experience will answer. You could also use your favorite products or your least used products. And you could ask yourself or have the challenge ask, why am I not using these products? Sometimes it's because they suck and they're terrible and you'll learn that really quickly. Other times it could be that this product is just getting overlooked because you have a lot in that category and it's actually a really great thing. There's a lot of types of data you could learn, and also there's so many different themes that you could do, and this challenge could work for just about anybody. The last thing is that this challenge can remove decision fatigue. One of the reasons why people go to something like a style uniform is that it removes a lot of the choices out of your wardrobe, and it just creates a simple, you know what you're doing every day. And sometimes you just don't want to think about these choices in the morning. I know sometimes I've just gone and looked at my palette collection and just stared at it for 5 or 10 minutes because I just couldn't decide. When you do this challenge, you'll have a set number of things. You'll have a much more limited option, likely just 1, maybe 2 things in many cases. You'll have a default use for everything. While sure, you could use your lipstick as a blush, you know that this one thing is your lip product, or these 2 things are your lip product for the month, and you're choosing between 1 or 2 things instead of 20. While I just said that you could have, or you probably will have, this default use of all your products, that could streamline getting ready in the morning, make it really quick, make it really efficient. You just don't have to think about things early in the morning. But if you do want to get creative, you have that opportunity to play with your palette and try new things and experiment. And this challenge really does ask you to get creative when you're feeling bored. And so there is an opportunity to potentially be more creative than you ever have been before because of the limited uses or the limited number of things. Okay, that's it. That's the video. Now the big question, did I convince you to try this challenge? I'd love to know down below, but more importantly in the community tab, I would love it if you would go ahead and vote. And I'm excited to see how this shakes down. Let me know if you are going to try the challenge in the comments below. I mean, if you're going to do it for February, I would love to know. Thanks so much for watching and hanging out with me today. And I hope to see you again around here soon. Bye.